Many friends have asked me to explain why I believe in rebirth. For some reason it occurred to me when I was only 5 or 6 years old to contemplate with the slender resources available at that time the nature of my own existence. It seemed perfectly natural to assume that I had always existed. No one suggested this to me, nor would family discussion have been of any help. It was simply an insistent conviction that I had lived before, somewhere, sometime. My efforts to explore this problem were not especially successful, because consciousness seemed to disappear in an infancy that was dark and silent. Self-consciousness, however, did not seem to be a beginning, but an awakening out of sleep. It seemed to fulfill an expectation, like a person who, retiring for the night, was resolved to awaken at a certain time. It was difficult to figure out why I had awakened when I did, and in the particular environment which surrounded me. My feelings can be summed up as a simple predisposition to accept rebirth as an obvious and inescapable fact, so real and certain that it required neither proof nor defense. As time passed, I learned that the doctrine of rebirth is not a minority belief held only by a small group of eccentric individuals. Actually, it is one of the oldest and most universally distributed of all concepts bearing upon the total existence of man. It is held in common by members of every race and all levels of culture, from the savage to the sage. There is no reason to apologize because we are interested in a doctrine that has flourished for thousands of years, was publicly taught by Gautama Buddha, and stoutly defended by Pythagoras, Socrates, and Plato. Nor is it an old belief long outgrown, for in this time, our 20th century, nearly 1/2 the population of the world accepts the law of rebirth in some form or to some degree, and this number is constantly increasing. Such statistics in no way prove rebirth to be true, but they do indicate that it is a major religious and philosophical conviction entitled to as much consideration and respect as any other teaching relating to the origin and destiny of man. In this little talk, we shall devote no further time to the weighing of historical evidence, or an attempt to prove our point by reference to tradition or authority. My own beliefs are not based upon the fashions of any age, the opinions of the learned, or the teachings of the venerated. I would hold it a sacred right to agree or disagree with anyone, past or present. To me, the only valid foundation for conviction is such personal insight as I may possess, and such experience as has arisen, by which this insight is tested through applications. We must all believe in something, and even unbelief is only a negative kind of believing. Unfortunately, there is no way to prove spiritual truths to universal satisfaction. If then, for my own well-being, I must build my internal life upon some concept, I can choose such a concept as seems most suitable to my requirements, best calculated to contribute to a full and useful life, and in closest conformity with my highest ethical and moral convictions. The belief in rebirth has met this need in myself, and experience has shown me beyond doubt that it has helped countless persons to build a more gracious and intelligent way of life. At this point, it might be well to define our subject. The doctrine of rebirth affirms that man, as a rational being, is not identical with the body that he inhabits, that he has an eternal existence apart from body, and that in the course of personal growth he is born many times into the physical world. This series of embodiments makes possible the unfoldment of human consciousness and the orderly release and development of the infinite potential locked within man. At any given time, therefore, man is the sum of his own past achievements. He must meet and face the present requirements of growth, and he is the architect of his own future. There can be nothing more useful or necessary to the individual than a basic philosophy for living, and codes of conduct are usually founded in religious convictions. Let us consider, then, our definition of rebirth in the light of those spiritual concepts which we have long held sacred. As a student of comparative religion, it seems to me that there are three essential doctrines which all enlightened religions hold in common. The first of these affirms that there is a supreme power or principle at the root of existence, which we usually call God, and that this absolute being, this source of life, is responsible for the unfoldment of creation. The law of rebirth assumes the reality of such a superior and infinite being, and demonstrates how this being attains its purposes in a lawful and understandable manner. The second essential doctrine of religion is the immortality of the human soul. This is the belief that man, transcending death, survives as a spiritual being, having an existence outside of and apart from the physical body in which he dwells during his material life. The superior and immortal part of man is more important than his body and should be given proper and due consideration. This implies that the attributes of the soul bearing upon character, morality, and ethics should be perpetually cultivated as indispensable to the growth and security of the immortal person within the mortal body. The law of rebirth affirms all this to be true. It points out, however, that the actual perfection of man cannot be accomplished in one lifetime, but is possible only through a succession of embodiments or incarnations. The third basic article of faith is the ultimate victory of good over evil. God, or the divine principle, is sovereign wisdom and supreme good, and all the works of deity must therefore be wisely and eternally benevolent. To compromise this conviction is to compromise God. But it is not always possible for man, with limited vision and understanding, to prove to his own internal satisfaction and contentment that the conditions through which he passes, with their uncertainties and tribulations, are in harmony with the will of an all-loving Creator.